Hello from our Mystical Whispers studio in Australia. Kylie Anderson, Jamie Arias, co-creators of Mystical Whispers, we're here with you. We're continuing part two of the six-part series, telling more of Kylie's story. There's going to be more than six parts, but this is the first six parts.
This is the introduction, Jamie.
Yeah, six parts of an introduction.
Yeah,
Kyla's got quite a story. If y'all know, remember, we talked about she actually has a live case, an active investigation going right now, and some stuff is starting to happen. It's becoming quite interesting. But this is it's a really difficult part of her story that we're going to share tonight. And it's a part that changed her life forever. If you missed part one, make sure that you get that recording and you keep following us and listen along because you don't want to miss any of it. Right? So here we go. So the next part of this, part two, is actually called Crash in the Call. So, which marks a moment when loss transforms into awakening, and when silence cracks and the voice finally returns, right? Yeah. So this is when silence breaks and the voice like re-emerges. Okay, because Kylie had been silenced for so long, and as you go through her story, you'll understand where that comes into play. So sometimes life has to break us open just to let the light in, right, Kylie?
Correct, Jamie.
So for Kylie, that break comes through tragedy, a single night that changed everything. She thought that she was taking a typical drive with her family back to Queensland.
Yep.
And what she didn't know was that night would become the line between the life she had and the life she was actually meant to live. And so, Kylie, I know this is hard. Take us back, love. What happened? And start us with the night before.
So the night before the accident, Jamie, my mum did things that she would have never done. She took me up into the attic and everything was labeled. My mum wasn't a labeler. There were boxes, dolls, little keepsakes for everyone. She even said, "This one's for you, Kylie, and this one's for the kids." I told her, "Stop it. Mum, you'll be here forever." And she just smiled and winked at me, Jamie. And she said, "You never know, Kylie. I might not be." We left the next night. We were all sick, worn out, and just trying to get home. Mum and Dad were each driving a car. Dad was in mine and Mum was in hers. And after hours on the road, we switched so I could drive for Dad. We stopped for a quick rest after that, Jamie, and Mum and Riley argued who would sit in the back seat with McKinley. Mum won like she always did. I drove Mum's car, and half an hour later, Jamie, it happened. I remember my son yelling, "Look out, Mum, we're going to have head on." And before I could respond, my son Riley grabbed the wheel and pulled it to the left while the car was traveling at 100 kilometers per hour on a two-lane highway at Telegraph Point on September the 26th, 2017. I saw a truck pull out to overtake and swang back in. I tried. My son had grabbed the wheel and pulled it to the left. I tried really hard, Jamie, to correct that mistake, and I overcorrected the wheel. I looked at Riley and said, "I'm sorry, mate, we're dead." All I could see was the semi-B double. The government utility vehicle came down on her head and she died instantly. A stranger was holding my hand as I woke up in the hospital, whispering, "Don't let her know her mother's gone." I heard my son's voice in the distance and I screamed for my daughter, Jamie. They told me she'd been so badly hurt that she wouldn't make it. My world just stopped. Something else began, and my intuition started to speak to me again. The same night as I drifted back into sleep, I felt the presence of my mum, not like a memory, like a presence. And she whispered, I covered her, Kylie. She's still going to be with you. Later on, I found that out to be true. My mother had thrown herself over McKinley during the crash, taking the full impact. That's what saved McKinley's life. And when you survive something like that, Jamie, you don't walk out the same.
No.
You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what next? Several things happened, and I ended up in a maximum security prison while McKinley was still in her healing recovery. Those days were difficult. McKinley was home about 2 years, and it was severe COVID hit. I started reading cards during those years after the accident, through the pain, the grief, and even my time spent in incarceration. They resembled the cards I had once burned. The person I read for became very wary when the reading came true the next day. And the second person was serving a 40-year sentence. All of the other readers told her she was going to do her sentence. But I told her, Jamie, and pulled her aside and said I'd read the cards differently and I saw her going home. That's when I stopped doubting the gift wasn't a curse, it was a call. 9 months after I walked out, that lady walked out too. At the new jail called Kempsey, an Aboriginal smoker came to cleanse the energy of the entire jail. All the women sat in a circle and he walked around us. He let the smoke drift over each of us, and when he got to me, the smoke flared up. Huge, bright, and impossible not to notice, Jamie.
You don't want to stand out in jail, Kylie.
He told me in 20 years he'd never seen anything like that, and that someone was trying to give me a message. He said I'd been reading on sacred ground without asking permission. Then he told me about a man named Bob who died on that sacred ground. And from that day on, myself and another lady always acknowledged Bob and the spirit of the kangaroo near the fence. On my last day, we did a lap and we said goodbye to Bob, and even the kangaroo met us at the gate to say goodbye. Even behind bars, Jamie, spirit found a way of coming through. I wasn't trapped. I was remembering. That's when I realized the cards weren't a coincidence. Spirit had been speaking through me all along, loud, clear, and unrelentingly.
Yeah. Every time I hear that story, Kylie, it leaves me speechless. You discuss loss, but I only see rebirth, and when everything fell apart, your spirit rebuilt you from the inside out. So, Kylie, what made you start trusting again after losing so much?
Well, trust didn't come all at once, Jamie. It came in moments. Every time I read for someone, it helped me, it helped them heal. And that helped me gain a little bit of my own faith back.
Yeah.
Spirit gave me proof before I was ready to believe in miracles again, Jamie. When I first got home, I only read for a mother and daughter pair because I thought they were part of my community support team after 37 years of friendship.
So, what did that season teach you about faith when no one around you believed you?
Well, faith isn't about convincing anyone else, Jamie. It's about remembering what you already know.
Yeah.
Even when people called me crazy, the truth inside me never stopped speaking. Faith is just learning to re-listen again.
And when you look back on that period now, the accident, the silence, the rebuilding, do you see it as a punishment or preparation?
Jamie, I see it as preparation. It broke the old version of me that still needed approval. When I came out of that wreck, I stopped asking to be understood and I started learning to understand. Every scar became a doorway to light. That's when I knew I wasn't meant to read cards. I was meant to read souls, Jamie.
Yeah. So that's the thing about callings. They rarely come softly. Sometimes they come wrapped in chaos, loss, and heartbreak. But Kylie's story reminds us that what tries to destroy you is often what activates you. So we
Definitely.
are so glad that you joined us for part two of
Yeah.
Kylie's story. And you can't wait for part three. It's going to be amazing. So join us back in the studio for Mystical Whispers and part three of Kylie's story. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.